everybody, it's Sarah Paikai and Jennifer Kim here. We are in the video around stage 3 of the unicorn team and what that looks like in the ownership of the things that happen in that stage. So stage 3 is a norming stage, and this is all about systems, standards, and structure. Oh, it's like music. It's medicine to my soul. I love all of those things. You can tell I am a true mobilizer who enjoys those things. And we are going to talk today about what happens in the stage, what it looks like when you're in the stage, the key things that you need to know, and also what the visionizer, the strategizer, and the mobilizer is responsible for as they are moving probably out of stage 2 into stage 3, and then from stage 3 into stage 4. So it's bound to be a very juicy conversation. So the signs of being in the norming stage, you have an MVP, you probably have 2 or 3 more products that are supporting the MVP, and that it's being lifted to 7 figures in your company overall altogether, and that you have a healthy profit margin. So what do you think some of the top lies or myths or misconceptions are that are being marketed out there in the internet streets for people who have reached this stage?
Well, I think the first thing is like the lie is that you've made it.
Oh, that's a good one.
And when I say that, not because there's nothing to be proud of. Oh my gosh, you should be so proud
100%.
if you've gotten to the norming stage, because honestly,
It's
the
hard.
biggest leap is from storming to norming.
Yes.
Biggest leap.
It's a lot of lift.
Right? And so if you're here, or when you get here, you actually, what I notice happens, and it happened to me too, where I call it, you start making what I call boring money. And the lie is that you're going to be like wanting so badly to scale. And maybe you do intellectually, but a lot of you, because you've made it through the storming phase here, you want to rest a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
more rest. And so this is the area that rest is really earned. And so and you might disagree with me, because you might be like, I shouldn't have to earn that. That's not how the real world works, honey. Okay, I promise you that if you're following anybody who's telling you that, they are way more rich than you are, okay? Because they're making you believe that that's what they did, and it's not true.
Yeah.
They had to do the same things that we've been describing to you in all of these videos. I promise you. Maybe 1% of them did not have to, but you don't want to bet your life and your purpose on an outlier.
Oh, that's so good. 100%. 100%. Do you think that there's this idea, I think one of the lies that's out there is hustle culture. I have to just keep working. If I work 16-hour days, 7 days a week, I will get to where I need to go faster. Like I hear that, maybe not literally that math of the time, but there's this idea of always needing to be on and checking your Slack or your inbox or that your direct messages, and that if you don't keep all the people happy with all the things, it's going to fall apart. What is your thoughts on that? Because it's a lot to manage.
I mean, yeah, and I think that if you have that mindset still when your numbers show that you're in the norming phase, but your brain hasn't caught up to that, because maybe your nervous system is activated because you've had to do some things that were challenging, right? But you have the reward on the other side, which is really exciting, this norming stage. And so I feel strongly that if you're here, really it's just a mismatch between your brain and the truth. Okay? The truth is that you actually don't have to hustle. Here's what you have to do. You have to fight really hard with yourself, with nobody else, to actually work less so that you can have other people pick up even more of what you know. By this stage, a lot of your intellectual property, your teachings, the outcomes of your products and services are able to be administered and executed and mobilized by other people. And so in this stage, take your boring money, okay, go get some therapy for that other stuff.
That part.
And then work on how can I replicate my intellectual property. Because one thing I didn't mention in the other videos is in the forming and storming phase, your personal brand is actually important. People will ask that question like, oh, I just want people to buy my product. I just want people, like, I want to grow a company. I want them to know the company and the product. And honestly, in the first 2 stages, this is a world that we live in now where people need to trust the person who says the thing, because there's so many reasons not to trust people, unfortunately. And so those parts of it are part of also why you might be tired, because whenever you have to show up yourself and prove yourself, that's hard, right?
Yeah.
But by the norming stage, now your product has its own proof of possibility, proof of truth. And now you can refocus on, how do I make that the star, right?
Yeah.
And there, you know how to do that is you actually have to work less, because you've already have all this amazing content and teachings out there. Now you have to put system structures in place to be able to amplify those things. And that's where the opportunity in stage 3 is the best.
I think there's another myth or this kind of dogma out there for this stage that says what you need is to go hire a team of 50 people.
Oh, yes.
You just need to hire the people to do all the things, and then you can do nothing. And that's how you're going to grow to the next stage, which
so harmful.
It's wild. Do you know how much that costs, y'all?
Costs. And then again,
and
humans,
then your energy, and then you got to check all the
basically, you've just given yourself what I call a golden birdcage, right? You have put yourself in a place where, you know, the forming and storming phase is like this rusty birdcage. You're in it. You're singing, you're doing things, you're just like, get me out of here, right? So then you break through, and then now, but what you've really flown to is a golden birdcage, whereby now you've hired all these people. And by the way, if that's the business model you're in, you better have a really good head of operations, and a really good head of sales and marketing.
AKA mobilizer and strategizer.
Right.
Really good ones.
Really good ones, because they need to manage those people. Because maybe you have a product that is, like, I don't know, super scalable. It's like the next, you know, I don't know, iPhone, I don't know. But really, usually we're talking to people who, they want to make great profit, they want to make impact, but they still want to have autonomy inside of their lives.
They want to have some take-home pay. They
right.
want everything going just back into the company.
So now basically you work for your employees instead of them working for you, if you do that kind of stuff. So honestly, delegating the right things is important, not delegating everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. So let's talk about the Visionizer and what their role looks like in this stage. So they are introducing products that are new or maybe even up-leveled that support the MVP offer. They are scaling their organic traffic, scaling the paid traffic, scaling the partnership traffic, and what that looks like for them specifically. And they're the Visionizer and the part-time strategizer, which implies, we'll get into just a little bit later, that the mobilizer things have been passed off to another person to hold and to own and to carry. So what is the most important thing for the Visionizer to focus on? I know you said boring money and not just upending all of it. We talked about it in some of the previous videos. But if you had to pick, what are some of the main things that you would absolutely bet on that Visionizers need to be looking at?
So number one, I do think you should be amping up your organic visibility as your personal brand. Because in the first two, it's more like you were like the salesperson, right? You were the marketing and salesperson. In this round, you're really speaking to your expertise, to your thought leadership, you know, and so that
your frameworks.
Your frameworks. So that's coming in the form of even doing videos like this. Speaking on stages, writing books, perhaps those are avenues that you could be pursuing while, as I mentioned earlier, working with your strategizer and mobilizer teams to cultivate, extract those bits and turn them into recurring, I started using the word recurring revenue streams and recurring visibility streams. And so to me, that's the main job in this phase.
And I think that leads into kind of like, what does a strategizer role look like? And it's basically when one or more of those fractal strategizers that we talked about in the last video, starts to not just see what they're good at. For example, your copywriter is not just going, well, here's how we can write more copy, but they're also starting to source the overall tie-in of how everything comes together and how that really helps you scale the individual offers. Meaning, if you have a strategizer who's a copywriter and in stage 2, that was what they did. They sold your consulting one-on-one offer because they wrote amazing copy for you part-time. This person might be coming up now in stage 3, where they are not just thinking about how do we write more copy that will support the launch, but they're looking at, well, if we're writing copy, how else can we, what's the timing of when we should put these things out? If we want to double our roster of clients to get to 20, these are the types of videos that we need to film about how you consult. These are the types of interviews you should do with your current clients. You know, they're thinking bigger picture of how it all ties together to allow more sales for the particular offer. It's strategic, but I'm trying to be like super, super practical with what that sounds like, right? So as a strategizer role in this part, what is the most important thing that they should be focusing on? Is it really just about selling more and more and more and more and more units of the offer? Like what should they be thinking about?
Obviously, we want to sell as many units as possible that we can fulfill with excellence, right? But the main thing is back to norming is about standard structure and procedures in a lot of ways, okay? And so to me, the strategizer's main goal is to go, how do we see the whole picture easily? What is a process that if we hire more fractal people, that they can come in and can be smoother instead of some of the storming elements from stage 2? So in our company and when we advise CEOs or people are in our programs, we have what we call the creative brief. And there's an entire process for running the sales and marketing systems of the company. So in the norming phase, the strategizer's main role is to shape that in a way that could be used over and over and over again. And then the visionizer's role in that is to put that creative juice inside of it, the creative ideas, and usually collaborating with the strategizer, because the strategizer is probably not just obviously a marketing technician, but they are actually kind of straddling both strategy and execution on the marketing and sales side. So they have ideas, they are checking out the market, they look at data, you know, they're coming up with copy prompts. So they have that contribution. It's a beautiful collaboration in the stage 3 between the visionizer and the strategizer. The mobilizer is like, just tell us what to get done. In this stage, and they're annoyed a lot because the strategizer and the visionizer get so excited about they pop off on all these new ideas. But that's where the fun comes in, from the boring money, because now you have a little bit more space to do that, but you have a structure to hold it, which is the creative brief process.
And I think that's really important, because I think one thing that is not talked about enough when we talk about scaling, or how we even maybe double the client roster, right, bring in more revenue, is that the variable really is how good are you at communicating what and demonstrating what the product does to people who don't yet know you, so that they know, like, and trust you. So it can't be boring, it can't be ugly, it can't be the same thing that everybody is saying. You really need to double down on how are we strategically communicating with people who could potentially be new clients for us. And it's not just a set it and forget it sort of funnel. That's an evergreen that runs the same every month with the same workshop that's pre-recorded. I wish it was that easy.
I really wish
it was that easy. The market changes too fast, and your people need so many different things. You have to be able to speak to that. The strategizer is obsessed with knowing what those things are that they're saying and why, and studying the data from even your best clients and thinking, how can we attract more people like them, and what's the plan to do that? What's the message? What's the experience, the brand experience they need? They're obsessed with all of these things.
I really want to reinforce what you just said. There is truly no such thing as set it and forget it marketing.
No.
That's another big lie.
100%. And
again, these are things we all wish were there, but take it from somebody who's been in marketing for almost 30 years. Oh my goodness. That it's so important that the strategizer is obsessed with current trends and understands past performance and can buy into the visionizer's future ideas. That's their job, is putting the past, the present, and the future together and coming up with a strategy to be the best we can during the period that we are that quarter, if you will,
100%.
that we're trying to go after. And that's why we do everything on a quarter by quarter basis. Yep. We do strategic planning on a quarter by quarter basis because market conditions will change.
Oh yeah, and especially post-pandemic, things have been topsy-turvy.
I know, emails have to be updated, yep. Case studies have to be updated. You have to look at, is there different ways that people can experience our product in a way that will allow them to buy a higher ticket item? These are all things that the strategizer's job is to do. They're in charge of product pricing, product positioning, in collaboration with the mobilizer. So
it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And finally, the mobilizer's role at this stage, they are standardizing all of the work in the departments, the processes, the systems, the people, the tech, all of it, right? They're trying to set something that is flexible structure that they can onboard people into, offboard if need be, but that's something that's repeatable and predictable.
Right.
And they're also starting to really hold the team accountable to their KPIs, their key performance indicators of what they should be hitting and doing and the results that the team should be getting inside of their work. Why is that accountability piece so important for the mobilizer to do, and why doesn't the visionizer do that?
Well, first of all, again, I will say this, generally speaking, I don't think visionizers as a core competency, again, this is a blanket generalization. Yep. They're not good at managing people. They're good at managing ideas and vision. And so the mobilizer has the most, frankly, stable persona in the roles. These are roles and people who, and this is like the epitome of like strategic mobilizer right here, is they love systems. They 100%. They actually don't mind chaos because they already know how to organize it. Yes. Right? And so the key problem that we see is that in this stage, the visionizer is still being a control freak around it. And I like to say by stage 3, your mobilizer should be really operating the company. You're still the owner, but you need an operator. And the operator is the mobilizer's role, right? The strategizer is in charge of revenue creation, acquisition, visibility, right? And I like to say that the mobilizer's role is actually definitely managing the team, managing the expectations based on the strategic plan, and understanding the metrics of the money. And therefore, they kind of move into a position of the boss on the floor, on the ground. Like if you're in a factory, right? You've got the CEO, like if you're Ford Motor Company and you're the CEO of Ford Motor Company, you have all these factories, right, all around the world. And the mobilizers, there's usually a lead mobilizer in every factory. And then there's a bigger one that's usually called the COO of the company. And these are the people at the ground level with the actual employees or contractors who are doing the real work. Visionizers at this point aren't really doing as much active work. Their job is to continue to be visible, to let people, to create and form partnerships, to create relationships that will help the brand. And at this stage, the mobilizer's job is to actually become the leader. And this is the biggest opportunity, I think, for people who are in all 3 roles, okay? Because the strategizer also loves the mobilizer because they don't take work off their plate that they don't want either. The strategizer wants to be both creative and analytical. That's kind of the role of the strategizer. They
don't want to be chasing or babysitting people. They don't want to chase.
They're not good project managers.
Nope.
They're organized in their mind, but just like the visionizer, not as organized in practice and communicate. Yes. In fact, strategizers typically from a persona perspective, they can be a little ornery. I came from the corporate world and I used to run strategizer teams. That's my background. And so we're technically bossy a lot, and also really annoyed when people just don't do it the way we say, more so than even visionizers. Visionizers are just like, they don't want to be taken out of their spot by a money problem.
Yes.
Or an execution problem. So the mobilizer's job in this stage is really to step up and lead. And that's the opportunity for the whole leadership team, the unicorn team, to have the mobilizer lead. And in a lot of ways, and another thing that we've seen on the internet streets is that mobilizers are treated simply as administrative tasks. No. By the way, even if it were just that, how important is that?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
But actually, if you put the mobilizer as the operator of your business, right, then that frees up more collaborative creation, analytical execution, and then actually making the brand experience happen. I like to say that the visionizer is in charge of the brand impact, the strategizer is in charge of the brand revenue, and the mobilizer is in charge of the brand experience. Because the experience that people have with your brand has a lot to do with systemizing your operations. So keeping customers is less expensive than getting new ones. And so Ops's job, AKA the mobilizer's role, is to keep clients happy and, well, actually not happy, to deliver
on the promise,
that we've sold.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good. I'm so excited because that means the very next video that's coming up is going to be around stage 4, which is, I think, the promised land that we all aspire to get to. And I'm super excited to speak to that and to talk about it in the next video. But in the meantime, if you have not checked out what a visionizer, strategizer, or mobilizer is, all of the details are below that you can find, as well as the full playlist that the stages are that we've been talking about. You'll find that below as well. So don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave us a comment with your questions of what you might like to see answered on a future episode, and we'll see you then.